So it's a great pleasure to welcome Mosab, Hassan, Yousef, who will be speaking with us today. Mosab grew up in the West Bank in a family of militant Hamas supporters, and later emerged as a strong advocate for peace with Israel. So this gathering was meant to be in person, but yesterday it was canceled by McGill because of security concerns due to online threats. So we're having it online, but one of the good things about that is that we've actually increased our registration. So we have more than the capacity of the room would have accommodated in the original in-person format. So anyway, it's a great pleasure to welcome Mosab and Ysabella, who will be interviewing Mosab.
Mosab.
Hi.
I'm excited. Ready to go? I think you're like born ready.
Born ready.
Born ready for sure. So I'm going to start by saying a Hebrew proverb that we know very well. You save a life and you save a world. And I wanted to start with this because I don't know if a lot of people know, but I'm going to quote your Mossad officer, your Shin Bet officer, who said, "Many people owe him their lives and don't even know it. Mosab is a true friend, and he risks his life every day in order to prevent violence. You stopped so many attacks, prevented so many suicide bombings, you saved so many lives, countlessly, and you put your own life at risk to save lives." And with that, I wanted to thank you. And not only thank you, but we're here today in an online type of format because your life was at risk again. The event had to be held online for security reasons. There was a lot of threats. And of course, we know the hateful mob unfortunately increased their threats of violence. And I wanted to ask you, what do you think about this event having to be online and how dialogue can unfortunately be stifled? But luckily today we're here, and the event, as Henri mentioned, has over 500 participants. So in the end, more people could attend and hear your story. But unfortunately, it wasn't able to take place on McGill campus. Is this security threat something that has stopped you in your work before? How do you grapple with this? And what do you think of this?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me. I appreciate this. I was excited to actually be on campus. And the last thing I wanted to accept that we have been canceled because of intimidation.
I agree with you.
So now when the university administration make one mistake, in my case, regardless of my credibility and my long experience in the Middle East, if they think that, okay, this guy this time, what about tomorrow? What about the day after? Whenever somebody wants to threaten or intimidate, we're going to submit to their intimidation. This is the end of democracy then. It's not democracy anymore. This is a strategic mistake on the side of the administration. This was the decision of the faculty. Hundreds of students were registered. It is on campus. The police made themselves available in case we needed security. Then they found something on social media. Mm-hmm. And all of a sudden, they became scared. So this is what we are dealing with right now. It's not about, like eventually, now we're talking still to the students through the camera. And this is a solution. But we just validated violence. And the problem, what people don't realize, that many years ago, I came to realize that in order to destroy the state of Israel, to destroy the nation of Israel, because not only a political entity, right. It's a nation.
A people.
It's a nation that is older than history. A lot more legitimate than Palestinians who just started back in 1964. This is the Palestinian political movement history. And they want to defy a 5,000 years of evolution, a nuclear power, a resilient nation. And they want to just keep sending children for eternity in this useless and endless fight. In the morning, they justify violence, or they call for violence. They say resistance is justified. Easy said. Or they can say from the river to the sea. But when they deal with the consequences, this is when they don't realize the origins of their suffering, how they got to that point. We see the mothers crying in Gaza. And we don't realize that this very mother was celebrating violence prior to October 7, inciting, validating, legitimizing, justifying Hamas' strategy of targeting civilians indiscriminately. She did not think that today she would be weeping her child. And in this situation, all she can blame is Israel. But she cannot blame herself. She cannot take responsibility for her action. And I say, look at Gaza and learn. Today, they call for violence here in the streets of the West. They call to globalize the Intifada. The only outcome of this is violence, death, and destruction. There is no way around it. Mm-hmm. And of course, the vast majority of my society agreed on suicide bombing attacks, agreed on targeting civilians indiscriminately, and this is what made me disagree with them, which immediately got me disowned and shunned by them. And I was okay with walking alone. I say, if the price for my freedom is to walk alone, then I'm going to walk alone. I don't need your security. I don't need anything that your society is going to give me. I don't want to be part of your violence. It's as simple as that. I wrote a book about it. I condemned myself about it. It was not the what so-called Palestinians who discovered me, actually. I revealed my activity because I did not have shame for saving a human life. I wrote a book about it, and immediately after, they just accused me of treason for challenging their violent strategy and their false narrative, most importantly. Okay, then I went into death, into the unknown, on my own. No family, no Palestinian, no Arab there. Then I come back after 15 years. What happened? They brought the destruction over Gaza. And they are trying to bring destruction over the entire Middle East and the rest of the world. This is why I came back, to tell them, how did that work for you? 15 years ago, I was a traitor to say, drop your violence. It's as simple as drop your violence, it's going nowhere. And they did not accept it. Today, they pay the price. And all the arrogant people here calling free Palestine, etc. It's like angry people cheering from the outside in a hunger game, say, kill, kill, fight, fight. And who's going to fight on their behalf? The children of Gaza? The children of Gaza now must carry the burden of every mediocre's ambition for eternity and continue to die and suffer? They're just children. If these people really want to destroy Israel, a superpower, I invite them to go down and fight Israel. And I hope that they choose the way from the sea, far away from Gaza, and leave the Gaza and the West Bank children out of this clash. Enough is enough. We want to break the cycle. We don't want to globalize it. We want to localize it. And we want to realize that violence is a dead end.
You touched on so many things, but I want to go back. You mentioned the concept of a mother and mothers who later cry, but then also cheer on. We all know that video that went viral after October 7th, that we've all seen that horrific video from the Supernova Festival, where a Palestinian Hamas terrorist came in and he called his mother and he said, look, look, I killed Jews, I killed 10 Jews, and he was celebrating in ecstasy and in jubilation. Just a few months ago, you got to meet Raquel, the mother of Alexandre Luc. It's important to say this story because Alexandre Luc, he's a local from Montreal, and he was also at that same festival, and he risked his life to protect all of the civilians around him. He jumped in front of a grenade, and because of that, he martyred himself. That's a true martyr, someone who protects people and doesn't hide behind them. So my question to you is, how can we shift the narrative or ideology within the pro-Hamas movement within Palestinian society so that mothers will encourage their children to not go out and kill Jews or to not have a call of jubilation? Because when I see Raquel Luc, who, still today she's fighting for humanity, and I think I'll meet her tonight, this juxtaposition is very powerful. So I really wanted to touch on that, the concept of a mother's love and how we can, change that for a better future.
Yeah, when we reach a dead end, and there is no dialogue left, that you cannot rationalize or reason with people who choose violence. That's it. And we saw them on the streets here. We saw them on the streets somewhere else. It doesn't look like people who want to actually compromise. They want a free Palestine, and they want it now. Mm-hmm. As it's my responsibility to go and construct a Palestine that is going to meet with each one of their ambitions and tell them, here it is, on a golden platter, here is your free Palestine, take it.
When you say they, are you talking about locals in Gaza?
I'm talking
about the Western leftists?
I'm talking about anyone who identifies with the concept Palestine, whether they think they are Palestinians or pro-Palestine, or sympathizing with Palestine, or want a free Palestine. They are all confused individuals. And
do you identify as a Palestinian?
Pardon?
Do you identify as a Palestinian? How do you identify as?
I am an Arab. I'm not a Palestinian. I thought I was Palestinian. I thought I was Palestinian before October 7th. Okay,
so that changed with October 7th. How come?
To come to realize the danger of identifying with something false, absolutely false. And how, for me, when I left Ramallah, this is my hometown. It's a Christian town, by the way, that has been invaded by Muslims. I did not want to see the Ramallah violence come into Canada or come into the United States or come into the West, the same mentality from the river to the sea that is going to lead to violence, that is going to lead to mass shooting, suicide bombing, kidnapping, raping, looting, and inviting also all the opposite extremes into their movement. Because when they say free Palestine, we can have Antifa, and we can have fascists, we can have Nazis, we can have criminals, we can have rapists, we can have feminists, we can have all type of hypocrites and criminals coming and just putting on a keffiyeh. And this is what defines Palestine. This is what defines Palestinian. Then what these people don't realize, the psychology of this victim narrative that is attracting the savior from every corner of the universe. They don't understand that the savior is expecting something in return. Those who are sitting comfort here in the West, posing as the saviors of Gaza children, what do they want in return? They have been feeding on the children's blood. And this is the reality of the Palestinian leadership for more than 70, close to 70 years. So now we have people repeating the same model. They see that there is profit to it. It's given them status. It's given them recognition. For some people, it's became also a source of income.
Yes.
And
It's industry.
It's industry. And this is very, very dangerous what they are doing, because they don't understand. And I, as an eyewitness who witnessed the evolution of the first Intifada and how fast things went out of control, I tell you, things can develop very fast towards violence and towards what could be collapse of society.
Right.
Because what's happening in Gaza right now is total collapse of economy, of society, the death, the suffering, total destruction. So why don't we learn from Gaza? Why don't we learn that actually the Palestinian violence is what brought us here? Instead of blaming Israel of committing genocide against the Gaza Strip.
Can you elaborate about that point on genocide? We hear a lot of people throwing around terms like genocide, apartheid, and recently we see with the ICC warrant, I heard you spoke on Chris Cuomo. Can you expand on this and how the media uses these words and these trigger words that often don't reflect the reality on the ground? What do you make of that?
Many times I said, and I see it on the social media all the time, that people say accusing genocide or genocidal. And simply I say, don't use words that are bigger than your brain. Because what's happening in Gaza is not a genocide. It's collateral damage. What's happening in Gaza cannot be genocide, cannot be ethnic cleansing. Simply because Israel give the people the chance to evacuate. Mm-hmm. They give them safe passages from the beginning of the war. I'm not saying that some civilians did not get caught up in the fire, mm-hmm. but also many civilians died as victims of Hamas booby traps. And the Hamas health ministry never told us how many Gazans Hamas killed in Gaza. And the Hamas health ministry never told us how many combatants died since the beginning of the war. They did not report even one. And they reported everybody as civilian, mostly women and children, mm-hmm. For global sympathy. So this is the strategy. This is very evil. First of all, sacrificing children for political and financial gain. Second, taking civilians as human shields. Then lying about the statistics. Then the pro-Palestine and the Muslims behind them come on a global assault against the Jewish people instead of apologizing for what happened on October 7 and say this does not represent us. They decided to launch a global assault. At the beginning, they celebrated October 7. Then shortly after, they inverted the narrative, and it became, instead of a genocide committed against the Jewish people, which the very definition of genocide, because it was deliberate and committed based on religious and ethnic background. This is what defines a genocide. Mm-hmm. The genocide is not defined based on the head count of how many people died. It's why and how the people were killed. All of us saw it documented by Hamas on cameras. So for the people to invert this, and now it just became the business and all the social media experts analyzing the situation and accusing a democracy of committing genocide, even though Israel has been doing everything within their ability to minimize the civilian casualty. Instead of that, while Hamas did everything within their ability to maximize the civilian casualty. So with that said, the genocide allegations is as false as the apartheid accusation, as false as the colonization or colonialism,
Right.
Ethnic cleansing. They're just big accusations with no support, as false as the narrative of occupation, because there is no such thing as occupation. And what support their narrative is what's so-called international law. And I don't mean to offend anybody, but there is no such thing as international law. It's just the rules of the game. The rules of the game, the rating, the United Nations was launched in San Francisco. It was made by the most powerful countries. After the World War II, the 5 superpowers don't obey and don't submit to the laws of the international laws. What kind of law is that? This is the law that is written by the powerful to the weak. And to say that there was a Palestine as a country and it has been occupied is the biggest lie in our modern history. I don't care if the United Nations validated it or not. There was no such thing as Palestine. It never existed as a political entity or as a sovereign state. It was nothing but a colonial entity created by the British from 1922 to 1948. A colonial entity. Jews, Arabs, Druze, Christians, and many other ethnic groups, all of them were called Palestinians according to the British mandate for Palestine. It was not a sovereign Arab state. So for the Palestinians to come and claim a colonial entity as their national identity and have a monopoly over that colonial entity that lasted approximately 25 years is absurdity. And for the international community to build on the top of that and consider that Palestine, a colonial entity, became occupied by the indigenous of the land. It's insanity. So you can go on and study for the next 10, 20 years international law. It doesn't matter. It's nonsense. There was no Palestine. And this is the truth that we need to bring to people. Because what people don't realize, false narrative eventually lead to violence. All these allegations of genocide, of ethnic cleansing, of colonialism, of occupation, this what brought us here. This is what has been creating the victim mindset, the victim narrative that is entitled for revenge. And the more we empower this narrative, this falsehood, the more there's going to be violence, because now we see how angry the people, everybody is projecting their anger on the situation, and I and my children and my brothers back home, everybody has to pay the price on behalf of their angry cause. And we are not willing to do this. We are not Palestinians. We are Arabs. This is our ethnicity. Palestinian identity is a made-up thing. Does not represent us, and we are tired of it, and we don't want it. If the Arab children are cursed to pay for the sins of Palestine and Palestinians for eternity, then we don't want it. If there is any invader in the West Bank and Gaza, is Palestinians, the ones who came with the AK-47 in the tens of thousands and enslaved our people, pointing their guns at us. And if we don't obey them, they are going to shoot us. Hamas are invaders. This is the Muslim Brotherhood ideology. They invaded our territory. They changed everything by the means of intimidation. The same way that they have been intimidating your campus and your administration, the same way they intimidate the people in the Middle East. And if you submit to them once, show them weakness once, then they are going to come back stronger and stronger. This is their strategy. So basically, we are not Palestinians. Palestine, this is not our business, not even an Arab term. It represents colonialism. And in principle, we don't have a problem with the Jewish people. We don't have a problem coexisting with the Jewish people. Our cousins, I'm sorry for being so long, but our cousins just 10 kilometers to the west of our town, 10 kilometers, who live in Israel and hold Israeli citizenship. We have about 2 million of them. They prospered. They had the better education system. They had the better medical system, better infrastructure. They had the freedom. They had the freedom to travel worldwide. And we stayed in the darkness of the Palestinian vengeance that Yasser Arafat and all those who came after him wanted us to continue paying for their struggle. And this is what brought us here. But you can look, there is actually no difference between me and my cousin who's an Israeli citizen. We are the same ethnicity. We both are Arabs. One of us is an Israeli citizen and enjoying all the advantages of democracy, and the other is a stateless with an unknown nationality. Why? Because we have enslaved ourselves and we accept the repression and the oppression of what so-called Palestinian ideologists, leaders, and activists. And we have been paying the price. And I don't understand for how long they want this to go. When October 7 happened, I thought, okay, this is the time now Palestinians are going to realize that this is it. It's a dead end. But instead, now I have Americans, I have Canadians, I have Europeans, everybody is joining the angry cause. And I tell you, the outcome of this is not going to be good.
So Gazans and Palestinians are among the most polled population, and you're talking now about the idea of Palestinian ideologists, leaders in Hamas, who use their people, abuse their people. Is there now, after October 7th, you think, a movement to break free within the Palestinian society of Hamas? And if so, if they break free from Hamas, does that mean that they're open to having peace with Israel, or does that mean that they're not open to destroying Israel, or that they will be less favorable to events like October 7th? What do you think that is, and what do you think a solution moving forward is?
Look, the Palestinian people are paying price for their hatred. It's simple as that. In existence, it's not about right and wrong. It's about cause and effect. And I said this from day one. It's about cause and effect. You cannot get away with incitement, provocation, plotting for terrorism, indoctrination, especially indoctrinating the children from their early life to hate the Jewish people and think that their mission in life is to kill the Jewish people. Then expect that things are going to be okay. I think it's too early right now to talk about a movement. What movement? We need to start over. We need to start from scratch. But first, we need to realize the problem. If we keep going like this, we are not helping the situation. We are advancing the violent ideology. And we are advancing the false narrative, most importantly, lies upon lies. So before we talk about a new movement, and I'm sure people adapt and change. People adapt and change. Even the animal adapt and change when they realize that this path is the path of death and destruction. Animal adapt. Species adapt and change. Darwin, no? So Palestinians are capable, but it's not going to be overnight. Mm-hmm. It's not going to be overnight. It's going to take time. And this is why I say we need to break the chain. And we need to break this vicious cycle of violence. On one hand, we cannot say advance the Palestinian indoctrination of occupation and genocide and apartheid and colonialism, and on the other hand, complain when the children die. These are two opposites. So, and this is where I need for the Westerners, especially the Westerners and the intellectuals, the historians, I want them to realize just this. I'm not counting too much on the angry Nazis down in the streets. These people I will not even talk to. But at least faculty, students, historians, people of intelligence must understand. The more we advance the Palestinian violent indoctrination, the more children are going to die. Not only Arab children, also Jewish children. And this is the situation. In order for us, it's cause and effect. In order for us not to see more tragedy of Gaza and more violence, then we need to drop and challenge the false narrative. If there was no such thing as Palestine, we need to call them out. And if Palestinians are not an ethnic group, they're just a political movement of diverse interest, of opposite extremes. If this is their reality, without leadership, without a moral compass, without an ultimate goal, except the destruction of a democracy or the destruction of a legitimate nation, who pose themselves as a replacement. Even today, they are not talking about the 1967 border. They are talking about they want it from the river to the sea. No negotiations. So if this is the reality, then what we need even a small army of educated people determined to say, what is Palestine? What is Palestinian? Is there such a thing, occupation? And how can there be occupation if Palestine had never existed?
Do you think this is about land, this conflict?
It's definitely not. It's not about land.
So, given that you don't think that it's about land, I don't think it's about land either. I think it's very complex. We see that the Palestinians have rejected a two-state solution on multiple occasions, whether it was in 1936, the Peel Commission, in 48, 2000, 2008 again. So what do you think of a tangible path forward? And do you think the solution is really a solution? Because we know that a solution where Jews are not able to live in the cradle of our civilization is not really a solution. And a solution where Palestinians are unhappy with it, or Arabs, local Arabs are not happy with it, as you would say, or Jews, isn't a solution because it does not fulfill the aspirations of either side. And specifically at this point in time, talking about a two-state solution will reward October 7th. So what do you think about the Palestinian rejectionism to a two-state solution? And how can Western governments and students on campus who care genuinely, there's a few who really do care about creating justice on the land, push forward with an idea or with a solution? And what do you think about this two-state solution is what I want to ask you.
Why don't we realize the problem first?
Okay.
Before we start talking about solutions. The problem, everybody is talking about solution while they actually being part of the problem.
Right.
And I tell them, first of all, realize that you are the problem. Your protest is the problem. Your indoctrination online is the problem. Spreading false narrative is the problem. Empowering the victim narrative is the problem. Once they realize this, then we can talk about solution. The Arabs, way before they were called Palestinians. Back in 1948, they were not Palestinians.
Not yet.
Our ancestors, they were just Arabs. They had an opportunity to declare their independence the same way the Jewish people had the opportunity to declare their independence after the UN partition. Mm-hmm. The Jewish people declared their independence in 1948. The Arabs declared war against the Jewish people. Then they came 40 years later, in 1988. This is when they remember to declare their independence. 40 years after they had their opportunity to build a state, an Arab state, side by side the Jewish state, and choose peace. But in 40 years, things change. In 40 years, they launched multiple wars with the intent to annihilate the state of Israel. And as a result, Israel captured more land, not because of dirt, because merely security reasons. The West Bank, first of all, it's not even the West Bank. This is the modern name.
Right.
The historical name is Judea. My birth certificate says on it that I was born in Judea.
Wow.
Okay, this is what says on it.
That's why we're called Jews today.
Mm-hmm. So now, Judea, first of all, there is depth to the Jewish people there. And second, it's the Jordanian Valley. And the Jordanian Valley can protect the state of Israel from hundreds of millions of savages who would choose one morning to invade and kill and destroy and do the same things that Hamas did on October 7th. And Israel has the right to have a security built and to have a natural defense line. And this is exactly what the Jordanian Valley does. It's a natural defense line, has something to do with security. For the people who just want to throw solutions like this, like somebody wants to give me an elephant and say, get this elephant in the eye of the needle, please. You know? No, I'm not going to do that job for you. And now they want 2 elephants in the eye of a needle. This is the solution that they are trying to force. And we tell them, no, the reality on the ground is different.
Right.
And there are security needs. There is demographical change. There is geographical change. And nobody has the authority to reverse the wheel of time. No one. Who has the authority to reverse all the suffering, the bloodshed, the wars, the loss of land, the loss of life, the loss of trust between the people? And now say, how about we go back to the 1948? Let's go back 70 years ago and please give us what was given to us and we mismanaged it. Well, at least if they admit this, to say we are sorry, we made a mistake, we were Arabs and we became stupid Palestinians, and we lost opportunity after opportunity after opportunity. What brought us here? Mismanaging and digging deeper into this ditch. If they come with this humility, then you understand that these people actually learned the lesson, and maybe you can put 2 states next to each other. But the problem, they are insisting on the same strategy. And of course, if you give them any piece of the land, they're going to think that they are winning, that actually their violence paid off. So tomorrow they're going to say, okay, then I want Tel Aviv, or I want more cities, I want more territory, and I don't want you here at all. If their violence gets rewarded. This is the other aspect that most of those who push for the Palestinian or the 2-state solution, the 2-state solution is a very similar situation to the 2-husband solution. Does it work?
Really
Will it ever work? Have you ever thought about it? Of course not.
So what you're speaking about now is especially very frustrating as a Jew and also a Jewish student and a Jewish activist. We see that there are many attempts to resist us, whether it's October 7th or taking colonial tactics like BDS, whose goal was to copy South African apartheid tactics to dismantle South Africa. These same colonial tactics are trying to be applied onto Israel. But the more that students on campus try to resist us as a colonial entity, the more that we come closer to who we are. We see that after October 7th, more Jews have returned to Israel than left because we're connected to the land and we're indigenous to the land and we're married to the land and definitely not open to having 2 husbands, the same way we're married to the land, not open to,
that's a good analogy.
Splitting it up. And the reason I say this is because you spoke with the head of the encampment at UCLA on a panel with a released hostage who was extremely courageous, empathetic, Moran. And my question to you is, when you told him, I don't read the books, I write them, you were finally standing up also not just for yourself as your experience, but as for others who are connected to the line. You know, many Jewish students on campus, their stories are being told by others. And students like Aiden, who may or may not be well-intentioned, often speak over us. How can we have a dialogue with people who speak over us? And do you think there is a way for us ideologically to connect the dots? For example, for me, I believe that when we explain to them, as Jews, we're indigenous to the land of Israel, clearly colonial tactics do not work on us, whether it's October 7th, we come closer to who we are, BDS is not effective. These strategies of resistance do not work on indigenous people. So within their ideological framework and paradigm, do you think it's possible for them, students like Aiden, to understand who we are, and that these tactics that they're trying to employ, like encampments, violence, only brings Jews closer to who we are, and also fuels a conflict, and as you mentioned, puts Palestinian children on the line?
Right. Well, I think people like this should just mind their own business and stay out of the Middle East business completely. Before they push the agendas of Hamas or the Palestinian indoctrination or the victim narrative, spreading more hatred, not realizing the consequences. It's like legitimizing violence somewhere else, but they don't realize that they are legitimizing violence right to their backyard simultaneously. Because it's universal, it's a matter of principle. So even though they think they are the heroes on behalf of the underdog, and I tell them, no, you don't understand the situation. Before you advocate on behalf of such people, you need to live among them. At least 10 years to understand the mentality and the mindset. If you haven't lived there, then you don't understand. If you only visited there, it's not enough. Of course, you can see human suffering on the outside, but you don't understand the paradox. This is not even a paradox, it's a matrix, and it's very dangerous. And we don't want to turn the whole globe into Palestine. It's a black hole. So these people, they are driven by selfish interest. And again, what's more dangerous than the victim is actually the savior. That's what's more dangerous. So I'm not saying that those who don't understand the situation, had they protested against the war and stopped there, I would have respected their opinion, their freedom of speech, freedom of expression, freedom of media. I would have not opposed them. They would have not bothered me. But they turned from anti-war activists into anti-Israel. Then now they have been inciting for violence against not only Israel, but against the Jewish people worldwide. And the Jewish minority has been paying the price. We have incidents on a regular basis. And by the way, the media does not even report it. And when they report it, they distort even the story. They make it sound like just an accident. And we have Jewish hunt, worldwide Jewish hunt, in areas I never thought that we have. Not only Amsterdam, we have many other safe countries. I don't want to mention those countries, but based on intelligence reports. We never thought that would be plotting, going after Jewish tourists or Israeli tourists, trying to kill them, kidnap them. This is very, very dangerous. And how did we get here? Because of this hateful indoctrination and the spread of the false narrative. So that brings us back all to the foundation, the false narrative.
So speaking about the danger of Jewish communities and, you know, the violence that we see, just last week we saw the murder of Rabbi Tzvi Kogan in Abu Dhabi. And of course we don't know exactly who did it yet, but we can assume that it is the IRGC. And when speaking about Hamas, of course we have to mention the IRGC. What do you think their role is right now in the Middle East with Hezbollah and with other terror proxies? And how is this forgotten in the media? How do we...
You mean the incident of the killing the rabbi?
The rabbi, but not only that, how Iran's role, the Islamic Republic of Iran's role in this war. How they use Hamas as their puppets, how they use Hezbollah as their puppets often. They do play a significant...
It's not often, it's basically their proxy. They have funded both organizations and other organizations. And this is the game of Ayatollah. The Islamic Revolution. The very dangerous people. They have destabilized the Middle East. And they are posing a threat not only against the state of Israel. Their ballistic missiles can reach some European countries. And they are seeking to obtain mass destruction weapon. Their game is a big game. And this is, by the way, not only the Islamic Revolution an Ayatollah game. This is a much bigger game. But I don't want to go far to Russia and China and their attempt to change the world order. They're aiming at the West and they're aiming at capitalism. And they use Palestine as a very powerful trigger.
Right.
It's a very powerful trigger. So again, if I want to go in every direction into this matrix, it's infinite of how many forces at play. And that's why I say for people who think it's black and white and ceasefire now, without dealing with Hamas, and the irony, by the way, we had to choose a very, very ugly war. And I had to take the position that I never thought I would take, which we see civilian casualty, but I still say we have no choice but to press on until we eradicate Hamas. It's not that we are not aware of the collateral damage and the civilians and their sufferings. From day one, I said, get the civilians out of Rafah, open the border, put pressure on Egypt, take the most vulnerable civilians. This I said from day one. And I was screaming out loud. You can find it somewhere. And nobody listened. Not the United Nations, not the US government, not the Egyptian government. Nobody opened the border. Even at some point, I put a reward, $10,000 for any brave Rafah guy who would just go with a bulldozer and just open the border and let the women and the children flee towards Sinai. Because I knew what is going to happen. Israel has no other choice. I have no other choice but to remove Hamas from power. Even if I have to build an army from scratch and go on an infinite fight with them until they are defeated. Otherwise, they are going to repeat this massacre again and again. So, but nobody listened. And the civilians got caught up in the fire, while the world leaders just sitting and complaining and condemning and whining without taking any responsibility towards the thing. They accused Israel, and now they are accusing me. I am all of a sudden now the genocidal. The one who said from day one, get the children and the women out of the picture, and they did nothing about it. So now they inverted it. They are aiming at me. I'm the genocidal one. And I say, why am I a genocidal? Because I say there is no way but the use of force, and the use of force is the last resort in our hands to restore order and to eradicate the savages who have been sacrificing Jewish and Arab children. So I say, what about you who want to eradicate Israel from the river to the sea? If Gaza cost us this human tragedy so far, this much, what would it cost to try to annihilate a nuclear power? What would be the cost? Have they thought about it? So on one hand, they want it from the river to the sea. They want Israel to just pack up and go back to wherever. And who's going to do the job? Who's going to do the job? And how much blood has to be shed in order to achieve that goal? And who is the genocidal in this case? The use of force is justified. If it was the last resort, when all venues of dialogue sabotaged. And we are left only with one thing, the use of force. And this is what we are dealing in Gaza. The war is not against the vulnerable civilians, but nobody is helping the situation. Egypt did not help the situation. The United Nations is complicit in Hamas crime, and they failed to condemn Hamas. And the pro-Palestine worldwide, and especially the Muslims among them, justified Hamas violence and validated Hamas violence, legitimized Hamas violence, and many of the Western hypocrites came for their help. This is what we are dealing with. To tell me about two-state solution, genocide, we are dealing with much bigger problem. This is the human delusion at its worst performance.
Very powerful. I'm going to take it just a little step back because we spoke so much about the conflict solutions, but I didn't ask you enough about your personal story. You are the son of Hamas, the son of the founder of Hamas. And one thing that I really respect about you, because of course there's many things to respect and admire, is that you always say that you love your father still, and you always say that you honor him. And what I wanted to ask you is, do you think that ideologically speaking, you could eliminate Hamas from an ideological standpoint? Is there an ideological way to eliminate it? Because people say you cannot kill an ideology. What are your thoughts on that?
I know these are the losers. These are the losers, or these are the ones who actually want Israel to surrender. It was my idea some 15 years ago. I said we cannot kill an idea. We can counter it. I said this some 15 years ago, but now I changed my mind. Because today, when we look at the situation, remember the Nazis? Okay. They almost conquered the globe, almost. And that was their quest. The Nazism ended up an idea in the head of a dead man for at least 100 years. And maybe for another 100 years, they won't be able to rise again. So Hamas will be dealt with the same manner. There is no way around it.
Right.
I personally will never agree to live in a society where I am ruled by savages, or by gangs on the streets, or by the mob. Because I know that I cannot satisfy their ambition. And the more I want to give them, tomorrow they want to come to take my property, or maybe one room at my property, then they want to take the other room, then they want to take the property, then they want to take maybe my wife, then they want to put me to slavery. Nothing can satisfy this type of mentality that actually choose violence and think that everything is given or taken. We are in creation. You create it. Everybody has that creative power. You build it. You own it. Then you have the right to destroy it if you want. This is your business. But if other people developed it, worked very hard towards that goal, now you come and you want to take over, they are attracted about the harvest. It's not about the land.
Right.
The land requires hard work
Stewardship.
throughout the seasons in order to save for the winter. But then the thief comes and he wants it easy. They just want to take the harvest. It was not about the land. It's about the developed land. So speaking in terms of my relationship to my father chose to be on the wrong side of history. And this is why I had to defy the line. I think he's a good father, but on the other hand, he's a very bad leader. And I had to sever my bond with him in my heart after October 7, because I cannot accept that he chose to be with Hamas and justify and rejoice and celebrate what they did on October 7. So who's my father at the end of the day? And why does it really matter? I'm a self-made man, and I have no concern for human opinion, period.
Powerful. Thank you, Mosab. I think now we're going to be opening it up to questions.
Hello, first of all, thank you very much for everything you said. This is very insightful. We are 3 students here at Concordia and McGill University, currently dealing with all of the problems which, I mean, you're here, so you've seen what we're dealing with the administration giving into all the violence and all the pro-terrorist organizations, and also the government letting it happen. So I know that a lot of people are afraid to say what they really think, but you're not one of them. What's your message to the administration of McGill and Concordia University that don't only let the terrorist supporters take over campus for the last 13 months, but also letting their movements grow and keep reacting like cowards who couldn't care less about their Jewish students and non-Jewish students who support open dialogue and a peaceful campus?
Well, now I see it for what it is. And again, I'm not offended on a personal level. This is a matter of principle. That they receive a threat and they cancel a major event, it's like canceling themselves. This is the greatest offense against them. And they submitted. This is submission. To surrender under the intimidation. This is what we are dealing with. And today they are targeting this university, tomorrow they target the other university, and they can't cancel anybody because they have a different point of view. And of course they can say that I said controversial things in the past, etc. I take responsibility for every word I say. Every word I said in the past 2 decades. Because when I speak on my own authority. It's not borrowed from anyone. So if I want to say that the Muslims have moral responsibility towards this, towards the massacre that happened on October 7th, and they want to label me as Islamophobic, this is nonsense. So basically, my message to these people, that they let their students down, they let their faculty down, they let the people of Montreal down, especially right after we saw the chaos happened. At least on campus, you show that at least there is order. We have law enforcement. They are available. They made themselves available. Then what was the point of the cancellation? What was the point of the cancellation? What did they earn? 1 day of safety? Where is our resilience? This is a very bad mistake, and things are going to continue to worsen, I'm afraid.
So just to let you know, actually, they canceled not only your event, but they canceled a whole month of events at McGill. So they canceled a whole month of cultural, social activities just because of the threats that have been accumulating and apparently escalating, as they said in their email.
Well, congratulations.
Yeah. But they canceled it when you came, but they didn't cancel it when Francesca Albanese came or when Iyad Abu Hamad came. People who support Hamas, clearly stating...
Right, because the pro-Israel will not protest violently. So there was no need to cancel the event. They submitted to intimidation, and it's on them, and it will be recorded against them.
I have another question. What do you suggest we do about this? Because obviously the only way that they're reacting is when the other side is saying that they're going to commit violent acts, and obviously that's not how we react and not what we believe in. But how do you suggest we counter the administration in cases like these?
I personally don't know the protocols. I don't know how you protest against the administration. I don't know if you have the authority or the power over them as a student body. I don't know if you have enough of those who see the reality that and the danger in principle of what's happening. So I really don't know. You need to ask the student leagues, the president, the student presidents, and see how you're going to deal with this. This is very, very dangerous, in my opinion.
The like success that I've seen in the past when dealing with this is doing more events. Because if you don't fight for your rights, you lose your rights. And oftentimes we see, very serious, legitimate security threats. But at the end of the day, if we keep doing these events and we keep taking up space, then it will have to be there. You have security. There's police security. You speak across. You're on a tour. You spoke in UCLA. There's no reason why you couldn't have been safe at McGill, in my opinion.
Yeah, and also it's not about my security. Do you think they canceled because they're concerned about my security or your security? You need to just follow the money. Follow the money.
Thank you so much again for standing up and speaking. But
I'm sitting down, by the way.
that's okay. But in the world, you're standing up, and the sad part is I think people, particularly all those that are calling for freedom, don't hear the love that you have for your people. You are doing this because you care for your family. You care for all the so-called Palestinians, the Arabs who live in what is now called the territories. You're doing it out of their concern for this violence to end and for this coexistence. Who is there that we can speak to on the other side that can hear your message, the fact that you're not here just for Israel, that's not what you're here for, your people, for your family? Who can you actually speak to that will hear that message, and hopefully that we'll be able to have some dialogue and move this thing forward where there could be time where we can live actually in peace?
Is this how you want me to be perceived? Look, I'm just, at this point of my evolution, I'm just representing myself. I'm not representing anybody. And it just, I may come across as advocating on behalf of Israel, but I need to bring the facts. This is not propaganda. I bring the facts. I lived on both cultures. I spent half of my life among the Arabs and half of my life among the Jews. And this is my authority, this is my experience. Today, I'm not trying to convince anybody. I'm here to actually challenge and, most importantly, to condemn. Do you know what the word condemn means? I'm not here to convince. You want to listen, you listen. You don't want to listen, then you have to deal with the consequences. I will not be there. And I will not be participating in the chaos that you create, because this is your realm. This is your creation. And I don't have compassion towards mothers who celebrate and rejoice the death of others' children. Then, when their turn comes, eventually, they weep. As they weep, I don't cry and I don't rejoice. I have zero compassion. It's their creation, the reality they created for themselves. And you'll have to accept it. And you know what? No one is above this authority. No one is above the authority of the universe, because the universal laws are the laws of cause and effect, not right and wrong. Because what is right here is wrong on the other side. And what is right on the other side is wrong here. Then this is a rabbit hole we can never end. My people gave up on me a long time ago. What they hate about me the most, that I could have been an asset to them. But what they do best, they misuse their assets. And they cut the hand that feeds them. And they accuse those who try to help them. And they crucify those who want to die on their behalf. This is their strategy. I don't love them, I don't hate them. I don't want to do anything with them. And honestly, I don't want them to spread and I don't want them to grow. I hope that they can be contained only in one region and keep this death culture only in one place. I don't want to globalize it. Think this radical, condemn me, judge me, sooner or later, the entire world is going to come to this realization. And guess what? I'm not going to be there even to listen to it.
We have time for one last question.
Thank you very much. You spoke about the danger of false narratives. Is there a narrative that offers honor and hope to Arabs living in the Middle East?
Hope. Hope is a drug. This is what I hope. And I don't sell people a false sense of hope. That's not my work. I want people to take responsibility. They want freedom, they must take responsibility. And everyone is the legitimate creator of their destiny. Everyone. So our work does not go in void. Sooner or later, we will have to mirror our creation. It's going to just manifest in front of our eyes. And when that happens, I don't want to give them hope. I want them to realize this is the outcome. This is the outcome not only of your doing yesterday, it's also your doing the day before, the year before, and 10 years before, and from the beginning of your creation, of your existence. This is what brought you here. Follow the chain of events that brought you here, and you will realize that. And once you realize that this is the outcome of your own creation, then you must take responsibility for it. Don't blame, don't escape. Face it with courage. This works. But to give them a little bit of hope that things are going to be okay, the situation is very bad, I'm telling you. And I don't understand how I can make them see. Even today, I'm trying to rationalize with people who understand the Western way of life that's supposed to be enlightened. But unfortunately, it looks like I have more rigid mindsets here in the West, more than Gaza. Some of my opponents that never been there were much harder to deal than Hamas leaders. Even I told them, listen, I can sit down with Hamas. I may find a middle ground with Hamas, but with you, I can never find a middle ground because you don't belong there. At least their Palestine is closer to earth, but your Palestine is at the corner of the universe. So what hope we're talking about? We need the truth. This is what we need. We need the truth. We need to help people take responsibility for their action. And yes, the hard way now. The hard way, and if they don't listen, they will have to deal with pain and destruction. This is dangerous what they are doing on the streets of Montreal. This is why I'm very frustrated this morning. And to add to that, that they actually can control our campuses just from outside. We don't even know who sent the threat to the university. Could be North Korea. Or could be Ayatollah office. How do we know? And they shut down all the cultural events for an entire month because of an online threat. So this is not good.